Have you ever found yourself sitting down in the morning, and before you know it, it's already afternoon, and you've barely moved? Maybe you were reading, watching TV, scrolling through your phone, or even doing a puzzle. The time just slips by. It happens to all of us, especially once the pace of life slows down a bit. But here's the thing, what feels like a peaceful, relaxing day of taking it easy can sometimes have hidden consequences. And I don't mean just feeling a little stiff when you finally stand up. I'm talking about real, long-term changes in your body, your mind, and your overall health. And for those of us over 60, those changes can show up a little faster than we might like. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with resting. After all, we've earned it, right? But the kind of rest that turns into hours of stillness, day after day? That's the kind that can quietly chip away at your strength, your energy, even your independence. In this video, we're going to talk about what really happens to your body if you sit too much after 60, and what you can do about it. Not with complicated exercises or harsh routines, but with small, doable shifts that can help you feel more alive, more mobile, and more like yourself again. Let's start by talking about one of the first things to change when we sit too much, our muscles. You might not feel it right away, but when you spend long periods sitting down, especially in the same position, your muscles aren't being used the way they were designed to be. And over time, the old saying "use it or lose it" starts to kick in. The muscles in your legs and hips, especially, start to weaken. And those are some of the most important muscles when it comes to walking, balance, and getting in and out of chairs or cars. When those muscles lose strength, it gets harder to do everyday things, not just running errands or going for a walk, but even just standing up quickly or climbing stairs. And I know what you might be thinking, but I still get up and move around every now and then. And that's great. But the truth is, if the majority of your day is spent sitting, whether it's in a recliner, on the couch, or at a kitchen table, it adds up. Our bodies were built to move, even in small ways throughout the day. And when they don't, the muscles quietly start to shrink and weaken. It's called sarcopenia, and it's a natural part of aging, but sitting too much speeds it up. And that's something we can actually do something about. Now here's something that surprised a lot of people when they first hear it. Sitting too much doesn't just affect your muscles. It actually changes how your blood moves. When you're sitting for hours, especially if you're not stretching your legs or shifting positions, your blood flow slows down. That can cause swelling in your lower legs and ankles, and in more serious cases, it can increase your risk of blood clots. You've probably heard of deep vein thrombosis, or DVT. It's a dangerous condition where a blood clot forms in a deep vein, usually in the leg, and it can break off and travel to your lungs. It's rare, but the risk goes up the more sedentary we are. It's one of those silent risks that most people don't think about until it's too late. And even if a clot doesn't form, slower circulation can mean less oxygen and nutrients reaching your muscles and tissues. It can affect your energy levels. It can affect how quickly you heal from cuts or bruises. It can even affect how clearly you think. Which brings me to another point, your brain. You might not expect it, but sitting too much can also impact your mental health and cognitive sharpness. When we're moving around, even just gently walking or standing while doing dishes, our heart pumps a little more, our lungs take in more oxygen, and our brain gets more blood flow. That keeps things firing on all cylinders. But when we sit for too long, especially in dim or quiet environments, our brains start to go into low power mode. You might notice yourself feeling more forgetful, more sluggish, or just not quite as mentally sharp. That's not your imagination. Physical movement actually helps support memory, focus, and even mood. In fact, studies have shown that older adults who spend more of their days sitting tend to have higher rates of anxiety and depression. That doesn't mean sitting causes depression, but it definitely doesn't help. Movement is one of the most natural mood boosters we have. It sends signals to the brain that we're safe, capable, and engaged with the world. When we move, we feel more alive. And when we sit too long, it's easy to start feeling disconnected, even lonely. I've heard so many people say, "I don't feel like myself anymore." And when we dig into it, it turns out that they've slowly become less active without even realizing it. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because life just got quieter. The routines changed. The outings became fewer. The body started aching more. And so they started sitting more. And slowly, almost invisibly, their energy, confidence, and even joy started to fade too. But here's the good news, and this is so important, it doesn't take a dramatic overhaul to start turning things around. Just standing up more often throughout the day can start to shift things in a better direction. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to run a marathon. You just have to move a little more often. And let me be really clear about something. This is not about blame. This is about awareness. It's about realizing how much power you still have to improve your own health and well-being, no matter your age. Every step you take, every time you stretch, every time you choose to get up and refill your glass of water instead of asking someone else to do it for you, that matters. It counts. I'll never forget a woman I met a few years ago. She was in her late 60s and had spent the better part of 2 years sitting, mostly from habit, partly because of some back pain, and also because her husband had passed and she just didn't have the same motivation to get up and go. When we first talked, she told me, "I just feel heavy. Not in weight, but in my soul." But little by little, she started making tiny changes. She began standing up during commercials. She took short walks to her mailbox and back, even if it took her 10 minutes. She danced in her kitchen to old jazz records. And after a few months, she didn't just feel stronger, she felt like herself again. She told me, "I didn't realize how much I missed feeling alive." And that's the heart of all this, not just preventing disease or managing symptoms, but feeling alive. Feeling steady on your feet. Feeling capable in your body. Feeling like you're not just watching life from the sidelines, but stepping into it, even if just a little more each day. Now that we've talked about your muscles, your blood flow, and your brain, there's still more to explore. Sitting too much doesn't just affect how you move or how you feel, it also has a surprising impact on things like digestion, posture, and even your lungs. It all connects. Your body is one beautiful, integrated system, and when one part slows down, the rest follows. So let's keep going, because there's so much more you deserve to know. Now that we've talked about how sitting too much can affect your muscles, your blood flow, and even your mind, let's keep going, because the body doesn't operate in pieces, it's all connected. And one of the next areas we really need to talk about is digestion. You might not think that sitting down could mess with how your body processes food, but it can. In fact, your digestive system is one of the first places where long periods of sitting can quietly start to cause trouble. When you're upright and moving around, even gently, your internal organs are better supported, your abdominal muscles stay a bit more engaged, and everything moves along more smoothly, literally. But when you sit for hours, especially in a slouched position, maybe on a soft couch or a recliner, it puts pressure on your abdomen. That can slow down your digestion and lead to problems like bloating, gas, and constipation. And we know constipation is already a common struggle as we get older, especially when combined with medications, less fiber, or not drinking enough water. So sitting too much just adds fuel to the fire. One woman I spoke with told me she had tried every fiber supplement in the pharmacy. She was eating prunes every morning like clockwork. But it wasn't until she started standing more often throughout the day, and adding in just a few short walks around her home, that her digestion really improved. She said, it wasn't the prunes. It was the moving. And it makes sense. Gentle movement helps your intestines do their job. Even just a short stroll after a meal can help reduce bloating and make you feel more comfortable. It's not about speed or distance, it's just about helping your body keep doing what it's designed to do. And since we're on the topic of your core, let's talk about posture. Because this is another sneaky area where sitting too much can cause real issues, especially as we age. Think about how we tend to sit when we're watching TV or using the computer. A little hunched over, maybe with the neck craned forward, the back slightly rounded. Sound familiar? Over time, that position becomes more than just a habit. The muscles in your back, neck, and shoulders adapt to that posture. They tighten in some areas and weaken in others. That leads to what many call the senior slump, where the upper back rounds forward and the head leans down or out in front. And not only does that affect how you look and feel, but it throws off your balance too. I can't tell you how many people have told me they started falling more often and didn't understand why. But once we looked at their posture, it all clicked. That forward-leaning posture shifts your center of gravity, and suddenly, small movements that used to feel stable now feel unsteady. And when your body's out of alignment, even walking across the room can feel like a challenge. But here's the bright side: posture can be improved, even later in life. The body is incredibly adaptable. Sitting with better alignment, getting up and stretching regularly, even doing some simple exercises while seated, these all help retrain your body to hold itself better. One gentleman I met started doing shoulder rolls and seated spine stretches during commercial breaks. Within a few weeks, his neck tension was better, his breathing felt easier, and his back didn't ache as much. Speaking of breathing, that brings us to another big part of this puzzle: your lungs. Because when you're slouched or sitting for long periods, especially in a reclined position, your lungs can't fully expand. And when your lungs can't expand, your oxygen intake drops. It's not dramatic enough that you'd necessarily feel short of breath, but over time, it can make you feel more tired, more sluggish, and even a little foggy in the head. Your lungs need space to work properly. When you're upright and moving, your ribcage opens up, your diaphragm moves freely, and you naturally breathe deeper. That means more oxygen to your brain, your muscles, and every cell in your body. It's like giving your whole system a fresh dose of energy. One trick that can help is doing a simple breathing stretch each day. You can even do it while seated. Just sit tall, place one hand on your belly, and breathe in slowly through your nose until you feel your belly expand. Then exhale gently through your mouth. Do that 5 or 6 times. It might seem simple, but it signals to your body that it's time to wake up, energize, and refresh. Now let's talk about one more important piece: your joints. A lot of people assume that rest is the best thing for stiff or painful joints. And yes, sometimes rest is necessary, especially after an injury. But for day-to-day joint health, too much sitting can actually make things worse. Your joints are designed to move. Movement helps circulate fluid through the joint, keeping it lubricated and nourished. When you sit for hours, especially in the same position, that fluid doesn't circulate as well. That's why it's so common to feel stiff or achy when you first get up. Your joints are practically begging for some movement. This is especially true for your knees and hips. Those are big, weight-bearing joints, and when they don't get regular motion, they lose some of their range of motion. Getting up becomes harder. Going upstairs feels like climbing a mountain. And it gets frustrating. But here's the empowering part: gentle, regular movement can reverse some of that stiffness. It really can. I knew a woman in her early 70s who told me she could barely bend her knees after sitting. She'd have to hold onto the table just to push herself up. But she started doing little sit-to-stand movements from her dining chair each day. At first, it was tough. She only did 2 or 3. But over time, she built up strength and flexibility. A few months later, she didn't need help getting up anymore. She smiled and said, "I feel younger than I have in years." And that's really the heart of all of this. It's not just about avoiding problems, it's about reclaiming your strength, your comfort, your ability to move through life with ease. It's about adding years to your life and life to your years. What I hope you're starting to see is that sitting too much doesn't just affect one part of your body. It affects your digestion, your posture, your lungs, your joints. It's a full body experience. But the encouraging part is that so many of these effects are reversible. Your body is always listening, always adapting. The more you move it, the more it moves with you. And the truth is, no matter how long you've been sitting, it's never too late to start changing things. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need fancy gear. You just need to start with what you can do: stand up during TV commercials, walk a few laps around your home, stretch your arms overhead while waiting for the microwave. These small shifts can snowball into a big difference over time. There's this beautiful thing that happens when you start moving a little more. You start feeling more in control, more confident, more connected to your body. And when you feel that way, it shows up in every part of your life. We've touched on so many areas already, and we're not done yet. There's still one more important piece to this puzzle, something that ties everything together and often goes overlooked. It's the emotional and social side of sitting too much. How it can lead to isolation, lower self-esteem, and even more health challenges if we're not careful. Let's keep this conversation going, because the more we understand what's really happening in our bodies, the more power we have to make choices that support a stronger, brighter, more joyful future. Now, let's talk about something that's easy to overlook, but just as important as everything we've discussed so far. It's the emotional side of sitting too much. Because when we talk about what happens to your body, it's not just about muscles or joints, it's also about how you feel inside. It can sneak up slowly. Maybe you start spending more time sitting because it's cold outside, or your energy is not what it used to be. Then it becomes routine, mornings in the recliner with the paper, afternoons watching TV, evenings sitting again while scrolling through your phone or watching shows. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first. But after a while, you might notice that your world feels smaller, quieter, maybe even a little lonelier. And that loneliness, that lack of movement, it starts affecting how you see yourself. I've heard people say things like, "I just don't feel like myself anymore," or "I used to be so active, but now it feels like everything is harder." That sense of disconnection, from your body, from other people, from your sense of purpose, can be heavy. But here's the beautiful truth: movement helps more than just your physical health. It lifts your mood. It boosts your confidence. It reminds you that you're capable, that you can take control of your day, even if it's in small ways. There's something powerful that happens when you take a walk outside and feel the air on your skin. Or when you stand at the window and stretch your arms wide and take a deep breath. It's not about exercise, it's about reconnecting with life. Movement tells your brain, "I'm still here. I'm still part of the world." And there's research that backs this up. People who move more, even just lightly, often report feeling happier and less anxious. Their sleep improves. They're more likely to stay socially engaged. Because the more you move, the more energy you have. And with more energy, you're more likely to say yes to that lunch invitation, that phone call, that walk around the block with a neighbor. One man I met said he started every day just sitting and looking out the window. But after hearing about how sitting can impact your health, he decided to make one change. Each morning, before his coffee, he'd walk 3 times around his house. That's it. Just 3 laps. Over time, that led to him gardening again, visiting the community center, even dancing with his wife in the kitchen. He said, "I didn't realize how much I'd faded into the background of my own life. Getting up reminded me I still matter. And you do matter. Deeply. Every step you take, every breath you open up with movement, every time you choose to stand instead of sit, that's you taking care of yourself. That's you choosing to stay strong, independent, and joyful. It's okay if you've been sitting a lot. You're not alone in that. Modern life makes it easy to stay still. But awareness is the first step. Now that you know what sitting too much can do to your body, your muscles, your joints, your lungs, your digestion, your mind, you're already ahead of the curve. So, what can you do today? Not tomorrow. Not next week. But today. Start small. If you've been sitting for a while, stand up and stretch your arms above your head right now. Roll your shoulders. Take a deep breath in. That's movement. That's medicine. Maybe set a timer on your phone for every hour, just to remind yourself to stand up. Even if you just march in place for 30 seconds or walk to the kitchen and back, that's progress. And progress adds up. Try turning TV time into movement time. During commercials, stand and gently stretch. If you're on the phone with a friend, stand while you talk. When folding laundry, Turn on a little music and sway while you work. Little changes like these can breathe life back into your days. If you use a walker or cane, don't let that discourage you. Movement isn't about perfection, it's about participation. Move in the ways that feel good for your body. If that means seated stretches or lifting your heels while holding the counter, that's wonderful. It all counts. And if you feel overwhelmed, if the idea of changing your habits feels like too much, take a breath. You don't need to overhaul your life in one day. You just need to start with one step. One moment of choosing movement over stillness. The rest will come. Now, let's quickly reflect. Sitting too much after 60 can affect so many parts of your body. It weakens your muscles, stiffens your joints, slows your digestion, reduces your lung capacity, messes with your posture, and even impacts your mood and confidence. But the beauty is, it's all changeable. With every stretch, every short walk, every breath, you're telling your body, we're not done yet. You have more strength in you than you realize. And more time, too. Time to feel better. Time to laugh more. Time to dance in your living room, or plant tomatoes in the garden, or walk down the block and wave at a neighbor. You are still in charge of how you move through this life. And we're here to support each other. If something in this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Maybe you've made a small change that helped. Or maybe you're just starting to think about standing more. Either way, your voice matters. You never know who you might inspire by sharing your story. And if you found this helpful, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps more people like you find this content. And subscribe if you haven't already, because we talk about real things here. Things that help you stay healthy, stay sharp, and stay inspired. Here's to stronger muscles, easier movement, and days filled with more energy and confidence. You've got this. Your best days aren't behind you, they're right here, and every choice you make to take care of yourself. So go ahead. Stand tall. Take a deep breath. And take that first step, literally. Here's to living your best life at any age.